So today we're going to be talking about the structure of how to organize your argument in an essay. So our focus is going to be what kind of organization do you need? What kind of essays are there? And then we're going to practice observation on the same kind of quotes that you'll be given for your test. I've taken some quotes that are like that, and we're going to make observations so that we can craft an outline. So that's our goal for today. So we'll talk about essay types, argument, and that'll be what we talked about. And if we have time, we'll talk about what's called the known new contract, but otherwise we can feed that into our grammar next Thursday.
Okay.
All right, well, let's go. First, we're going to go over the CBEST list of what they expect from you in writing an essay. So rhetorical force, we're going to focus on that when we look at the known new contract. So that'll be mostly next week. We'll look at rhetorical force. Rhetoric is the intentional use of language. So being able to make the sentence sound right as well to convey your meaning. The rhetorical force, they're going to look for the clarity with which the central idea or point of view is stated and maintained. So they're going to want some continuity in your writing so that they can understand and follow your argument from beginning to end. So that's going to be the coherence of the discussion and the quality of your ideas. Today, we're going to talk mostly about organization. So the clarity of the writing and the logical sequence of your ideas. We'll get into a little bit supporting and development, which is the relevance, depth, and specificity for supporting information. So we're going to make a claim. You're going to give your reasons for those claims, and then you're going to give the evidence so that they can also believe your claim. Usage, the extent to which the writing shows care and precision in word choice. That's going to be a little more as we go. We're not going to do a single lesson on usage because that has to do with your ability to use the English language effectively. And that's luckily you're doing the speaking class with me as well. So we'll focus on usage, proper usage for various words. In that class, structure and conventions. So the extent to which the writing is free of errors in syntax, paragraph structure, sentence structure, and mechanics. So we do have 4 classes that are specifically on this structure and mechanics in the language. Spelling, punctuation, and capitalization we'll also discuss, but to a lesser degree. And lastly, appropriateness, the extent to which the writer addresses the topic and uses language and style appropriate to the given audience and purpose. So that's what we're going to be practicing as we go. Now the CBEST test is going to ask you to do 2 different kinds of essays. They're going to ask for an opinion essay, and they're going to ask for an expository essay. We're going to be focusing today on the expository essay because that's more difficult than the opinion essay, but we are going to do a lot of practice with both in the next few weeks. All right, so essay structure, just like in a sentence, it matters where we put our subject and where we put our predicate and our different phrases. An essay is the same. You enter into a contract with your reader where they're expecting to hear certain arguments in certain locations in the essay. So the structure is going to be the organization of the text and how the elements of the argument fit together. And we're going to look at that similarly to the way that we look at the structure of a sentence. But first, let's go over 4 different kinds of essays. We've got compare and contrast. The purpose of this kind of essay is to show how 2 or more things are similar or different. You may be asked to write an opinion essay in which you compare 2 different opinions, or you will have to state why your opinion is comparative or contrasted with another opinion. Some signal words, these would be words that you want in your tool belt if you're writing a compare or contrast. This is how you move from one idea to another. In comparison, by contrast, similarly, but on the other hand, on the contrary, yet, however, despite, and as opposed to. These are good signal words that will let you know either that you're reading a compare and contrast essay or that you're writing one. So these are words that they would be looking for when they're analyzing your essay to see if you've transitioned your thoughts properly. There's chronological or process. One of the options for the essay is that they might ask you to explain a certain situation that you've been in and how you handled it. This would be a chronological or process. Chronological is organized by its time sequence. Process is organized by first, second, third steps in order to accomplish a means or an end. So the purpose is to show the order or the ranking in a series of actions, and they'll be organized logically. Signal words for this: first, next, then, before, after, last, or finally. This is one of the most common kinds of essays they'll ask you to write. The cause and effect. This would probably fall into either your opinion, if you're writing a certain kind of argument for why your opinion has merit. You may need to use a cause and effect structure. So the purpose for this is to show the relationship between two or more events or experiences. It shows why something happens or the chain reaction of what will happen next. Signal words for this reason, thus, since, in order to, as a result, therefore, consequently, because, due to, or on account of. You also may use a cause and effect structure to write an expository essay. A problem and solution. The purpose of a problem and solution essay, it outlines or highlights a dilemma and ways to solve or address this dilemma. Signal words: problem, solution, because, research, develop, cause, since, as a result, in order to, so that, goal, or investigate. Any of these words would be words that they're looking for in this essay. All right, and the last one is a descriptive essay. The purpose of this is to show an account of something by offering characteristics of the topic. Signal words and using descriptive details. Description is probably the closest category to our expository essay, which we're going to focus on today, because expository comes from the word expose. Your intent in writing this essay is going to be to expose the ideas, to explain something to the reader. So we're going to look at quotes by some authors and try to explain what they mean by this quote. So we're going to try to use this structure for our evidence claims. So building an argument is like having a two-sided conversation where the questions are asked silently. So when you're writing your essay, just pretend that you're talking to yourself in your head and you're writing your answers down on the paper. You're explaining why you come to your conclusions. So naturally, before you begin writing, you're going to want to make observations on whatever text they've given you to expound. We're going to practice going over some of the observations. Then you're going to organize your observations into an outline so that you know what your claim is before you begin, and you know your reasons for believing those and the evidence that you can give so that someone else might believe that as well. Essentially, you want to convince them of your conclusion. And that's when they're going to say that, yes, you've argued your point well. So what is a claim? A claim is going to answer the question, what do you want me to believe? And what is the point? So you're going to come to some decision about what the quote intends to mean. And you want to convince the reader that they should also read it that way. You're going to need to provide your reasons that you believe that. So why do you believe that and why should I agree? And your reasons should be backed up with evidence. So you're going to probably quote a portion of that quote or cite some sort of evidence in that to back up your reasons. There's also the option to put in here, perhaps in a body paragraph somewhere, a defense, which is where you're going to assume that the reader disagrees about a certain point and answer a reasonable doubt. So you're going to defend your belief against reasonable doubt. Your paragraph or your essay is probably only going to be about 5 paragraphs. So you're going to state your claim in the first paragraph, give 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs of reason, and then the last one is going to be your warrant. Warrant is going to answer the question, how does that follow? What's the purpose? What's the intent? In other words, why does it matter? So you're going to not be just explaining why or what the author means by their quote, but you're going to be explaining its relevance to the world and why someone might benefit from understanding this. And that also could be called the result, is how does this evidence support your claim? All right, so let's go into each one of those a little more. Could I have you read this for me about a claim?
A claim is an assertion which could be one sentence or several that demands support. Your main claim is the assertion supported by your whole research argument. Some call this assertion your thesis.
Right, so you're probably familiar with the term thesis. That's the same in Spanish.
Yes.
So in a thesis, that normally has the idea of a whole paragraph or perhaps even a whole introduction is going to be explaining a thesis. In a short essay, you don't have time to develop a whole thesis. So a claim is going to be just a short thesis, 1 or 2 sentences explaining your point of view. Could you read this for me as well about claim?
At the core of your argument are 3 elements: your claim, your reasons for accepting it, and the evidence on which those reasons are based. To that core, you'll add 1 or perhaps 2 more elements. One responds to questions, objections, an alternative point of view. The others answer those who do not understand how your reasons are relevant to your claim.
Right. So if you have, for example, a very controversial quote and you take a minority position, that means most people would probably disagree with you, but you're convinced of a certain way of thinking. In that case, you would need to respond to those objections or alternate points of view. If you ignore them, it makes your argument weaker, because if it's what they would think automatically, you would need to answer why they should think differently. But if the claim seems to be the most obvious, the most reasonable argument, then you don't need to include any sort of response to objections because there may not be any. So keep that in mind if you are dealing with, for example, one of your optional essay questions is a quote by Nelson Mandela. The quote is a bit controversial. So if you think he is saying something that the majority does not think that he is saying, you're going to want to respond to why someone should not believe the most obvious thought. So that's going to be the response. Everything else is going to have to do with supporting your claim. All right, so every claim statement, you're going to have natural reasons for believing your own claim. So can you read this paragraph about reasons?
At the core of every research argument is the answer to your research question, the solution to the problem, your main claim. You have to back up that claim with 2 things of support: reasons and evidence. A reason is a statement. How do you rate that word?
Statement.
Statement.
Mm-hmm.
Statement that lead readers to accept a claim. Mm-hmm. We often join a reason to a claim with because.
Very good. So because that's going to be one of our tag words. It's answering the question, why do you believe your claim? So this is probably going to be something that you include in your topic, a paragraph. In your first paragraph, you're going to state your claim in 1 or 2 sentences, and then you're going to give your reasons for believing that. Later in the essay, in paragraphs 2, 3, and 4, you're going to come back to those reasons and give some evidence why someone else should also believe those reasons. So let's talk about evidence. Can you read this paragraph for me?
You often need more than one reason to support your claim, and in a complex argument, your reasons will be claims themselves, requiring support with additional reasons in turn. Evidence is the data on which you base your reasons. It may seem obvious that you must back up a claim with reasons and evidence, but it is easy to confuse those two words because we often use them as if they mean the same thing.
Right. So it brings up a good question. Do you think that you could come up with a good definition of reason and evidence and how they differ?
Reason will be a motive, and evidence will be more the proof, is
Good.
what I have in mind.
Very good. Evidence is proof, and reasons would be, one way to put it would be motive. We could also look at it as reasons are subjective and evidence is objective. Evidence is going to be data, whereas reasons are going to be your interpretation of that data.
Yeah, an explanation somehow, and evidence is a proof. Like reasons for racism could be economical context, and an evidence will be the 20% of poor people think that they are less because other people are racist or whatever, something like that.
Exactly. Very good. You have a good grasp of that. A lot of people kind of struggle with that. So I don't think we need to go into that anymore. So let's look here, just reasons and evidence. Could you read this paragraph for me?
Sure. We don't base evidence on reasons. We base reasons on evidence. We use our minds to think up reasons. We have to search for evidence out there in the world and then make it available for everyone to see. Reasons need to be support of evidence. Evidence should need no support beyond careful demonstration or a reference to a reliable source.
Good. So in our process of developing our argument, we're going to start at the evidence level. We're going to come up with reasons why that evidence should lead to a claim. When we present the argument, we start with the claim, go back to the reasons, and then foundational on the evidence. So we have to make sure that we understand the evidence before we even come up with a claim, because the evidence has to be able to change our mind. So we might read this and come up with a claim, but unless we've done our research into the evidence, we actually can't back up our claim. So we're going to have to make some observations seeking evidence for that. All right, this is the response, answering reasonable doubts. Could you read this paragraph?
You must anticipate as many of their questions as you can, and then acknowledge and respond to the most important one. Doing this may be hard because you know your own argument too well and may believe in it too much to seriously challenge it. Still, you must imagine your readers' questions and take their views in account.
Good. So have you ever heard the term in English, playing devil's advocate?
No.
No, this term essentially means to pretend that you disagree with your own ideas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we
you,
do that very well in my culture. My culture is we love debate,
Mhm.
so we do that all the time.
Good.
It's part of the culture.
Very good. No, that's good. And when we get to our reasons and claim stage, you're going to want to argue with yourself. Try to disprove your own idea. And it's very scientific. So I like to remind my students that English is science and it's math and it's everything all put together.
Mhm.
So here we're going to take a very scientific approach to interpreting language. All right, and finally the warrant. Why does it matter? Could you read this?
You add a warrant to your argument when you think a reader might reject your claim, not because a reason supporting is it uh, not because a reason supporting it is factually wrong or is based on insufficient evidence, but because it seems irrelevant and so doesn't count as a reason at all.
Good.
Hmm.
So we have to answer the question of relevance. Someone might agree with you, but doesn't understand how it applies. So at the end of an explicative essay, we want to give an application. We want to explain to someone why this idea, why your interpretation matters. So that's going to be our concluding paragraph. Could you read one more paragraph about this?
It states a general principle based on our experience in the world. When a certain general condition exists, it's called, we are justified in saying that a certain general consequence regularly follows. People should dress warmly.
Mhm.
Warrants come in all sort of form, but the most convenient is the when, then pattern.
Mhm.
This warrant covers the reason and claim.
Right. So evidence gives us our warrant. Warrant, if you think of warrant and claim, it's like two sides of a coin. You've got your claim on this side, and you've got its practical reason on this side. What does this claim mean to the reader? All right, so we're going to practice making observations. You mentioned that you like Borges, and I really like Borges. So our first quote that we're going to look at is by Jorge Luis Borges. So could you read this quote by him?
I'm not sure that I exist, actually. I am all the writers that I have read, all the people that I have met, all the women that I have loved, all the cities that I have visited.
Good. So we're going to try to come up with just an outline of evidence. But first, we have to make some observations on this text. We want to think, what is he trying to say to us? And how should it change the way we are thinking? So that's going to be our claim and our warrant. On that claim and warrant, we're going to have our reasons and evidence to back that up. So we're going to do a monotonous task first and just make some basic observations. Sometimes these even seem non-consequential, but they help us start to get the juices flowing. So I'll just ask you a few structure questions about this. How many sentences are in this quote?
So sentence, I count one sentence when it's subordinate or
Hmm.
not
With sentences, we count them at the period.
at the period. And for example, I'm not sure can be one and then it's a subordinate that I exist. Is one or two there?
This is one sentence, two clauses.
Okay, one sentence, two clauses. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentence.
We have 5 independent clauses, but we have 2 sentences.
Okay. So for you, only dot will put sentence.
Right.
Okay.
So only the dot, the period. The commas mean that this might be a complete independent sentence, but it means that this idea and this idea are so close that I can't separate them. A period
Yeah, it's
gives
a numeration, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a
In
period.
Spain, we consider like a sentence the basic structure. If you have a verb, a subject, and a supplement, that is a sentence, and you can have a subordinate sentence, but yeah, that will be still a sentence.
Right. In English, we have special. Oh, I think
Name
even
for that.
in
Yeah, you
Spanish
call,
there's clause.
how you call the clauses? No, how do
Clause.
you
Yeah. Clausula. Clause.
close?
So
Clause.
we
Okay.
don't have subordinate sentences, but we can have a subordinate clause.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
And
I see.
that's going to be important in this sentence because I think in Spanish, this would be considered 5 sentences. But in English, we have to translate it into 2 sentences because essentially what he's doing is he's giving us a claim and then he's giving us his reasons, but he's not giving us any evidence. So we're going to have to come up with evidences to understand what he's saying. So which sentence is his claim?
The first one.
The first one, I'm not sure that I exist, actually. And then the next one is going to be his reasons. This is what he does believe. Says, I'm all the writers that I have read, all the people I have met, all the women I've loved, all the cities I have visited. Now look at the punctuation in the second sentence. He's got 2 commas and then a semicolon. The commas mean very closely, almost grammatically related, whereas a semicolon just means that it is not grammatically dependent upon the other sentences, but the idea is so closely linked that if you remove it, you lose part of that idea. So it means from the capital letter I that begins the sentence all the way to the period, you can't take out any of these elements without losing a part of his idea. So how many ideas is he expressing in this second sentence?
I will say 4.
4. So to him, in his mind, what are the 4 elements that make up who he is?
The writers that he has read, the people that he meet, the woman that he loved, and the cities that he visited.
Right. So what are 4 elements of his life that he believes have crafted who he is as a person? His reading, the books that he's read, because why is that? They influence his thinking. When he's reading, it's as if he's traveling, right? He's changing his thinking. He's wrestling with these readers. He's understanding other people's thoughts. That's very similar to his next idea, isn't it? All the people that I've met. Because what do you do when you meet a person? You talk with them, right? How about all the women that I've loved? How would this change his life?
I think that is a more emotional level, more so. The read is intellectual. The people, I will say, is more the social, and the woman is more intimate. Is the you become one, so you are more in an inner circle. He's going from the out sphere to in, and then he put the dot and the comma because now he finished the circle and add the cities that is not getting in the center of the circle.
Exactly. And just this grammatical, all the cities I have visited, how many people are required for this sentence?
Just him.
Just him, right? So he's moved from reading, which he does on his own, but someone had to write that book that he's reading. So it's 3 steps removed from him, right? Someone reads it, then it's printed, and then he reads it. Well, the next one is people he's met. There's an exchange, but it's not as intimate as the exchange of love. So he's got, like you said, intellectual, social, and romantic. Now he's basically told us that all of those are intimately connected ideas. For him, who he is quantified in his exchange with other people. But then all the cities I have visited, he's almost saying that all of these three ideas are equal with his last idea, just based on the grammar,
Yeah,
based on the way he punctuated.
and you can also interpret it that this influence that the people, the woman, the books
Mhm.
could be different in different cultures. Like it's not the same read people from Paraguay and meet people from Paraguay and love a Paraguayan woman that meet somebody in Germany, read somebody in Germany and love a woman in Germany. So I think it's that also.
Exactly. Now, you and I have the benefit, we probably know a little bit about who Jorge Luis Borges
Yes.
is, right? Like
Sí.
his wife, Maria Kodama, is that not Kodama? No. His wife, that the woman from Japan, right?
Sí.
So he traveled to Japan and back from Japan, so he was able to interact with those people. Well, perhaps you know he grew up in Europe as well.
Sí.
He's born in Argentina, grows up in Europe. His family heritage is very long in Argentina. So he's
Sí.
got a European way of thinking and a South American way of thinking. So for him, the cities that he's visited have also incredibly influenced who he is. Uh, so he has made that equally important with the people that he's interacted with. Where has he interacted with these people?
Where?
Mhm.
In you mean in the different cities?
Yeah, we can just postulate, we can guess.
Mm.
All of these cities are very important to him. It's probable that the people that he's meeting are in all these different cities, right? Because
Yeah,
cities are
yeah.
populated with people. The women that he's loved, now, is women here singular or plural?
Plural.
Plural. How about people?
It's singular but it's collective noun. So
It's a collective noun, but we
it's like
use
a
a
pack.
plural
It's
verb.
singular but imply several individuals.
Yeah, it's well, it uses a plural verb, so it's a plural noun, but there's
Okay.
no singular form.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's what I
but I
want
know
to
exactly what you mean. Yeah.
say.
So it's in the plural. Women is in the plural, and the writers as well. This is in
Yeah.
the plural. Now, he didn't say all the books that I've read. He said all the writers that I've read, right? Because for him, a book isn't the words on the page. For him, a book is the thoughts of that writer. So he's interacting with three levels of people. And where is he interacting with them? In cities that he's visited, most likely. Uh, with the exception of the writers. But if you've read Borges, which I know you have, he's influenced by Muslim thought, he's influenced by Jewish thought, Christian thought, uh, just about any region of the world, he's interacted with their thought processes. So he is essentially saying that he is not sure that he exists, but all these external places he's been, he knows that they exist. So now let's bring in that first sentence again. I'm not sure that I exist. This is his claim. This is his main idea. Uh, how would you understand this based on the reasons that he gives in the second sentence? What is he trying to tell you about existence?
Um, so it's not the physical one, it's
Mhm.
evident. Um, I I think that what he wanted to say that the singularity, the person that he is a lot of people at the same in him.
Mhm.
A lot of things like the writers, the people, the women, the
Mhm.
cities, the culture, whatever. So is he don't think that as individual
Mhm.
he has become what he is because all of these things.
Right. So perhaps one way to say that would be he is his influences. But in this sentence, let's look at the grammar again. Is this sentence posed in the positive or the negative?
I think it's in the positive, the way that he tried.
Mhm.
I will have difficult because when I see the verb exist literally, I tend to imagine like Shakespeare.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
I don't know how do you say in English the famous word. ¿Es o no es? That is the question. Ser o no ser. Esa es la cuestión.
To be or not to be.
Okay, so I think that is something trigger me the fact that he used the verb exist, because for me exist just is like the physical part. You exist, yeah, you can maybe different people together or influence, but I not see too much the relation. I'm not sure if in Spain I don't know. You know what I mean? The verb exist. I was thinking more. I don't know if I'm expressing myself. This is.
So I think I get it.
Okay, so for me, existence,
Mhm.
you can exist and even still be the mix of everything, and I don't understand why he is not be sure to exist.
So that's exactly it. We want to understand, why would he say this? Because for us, that doesn't make sense, right? There's the famous saying by, I think, Horatio, I think, therefore I am.
Sí,
So,
exacto.
so we
Pienso,
want to
luego existo.
understand,
Yeah,
why
exactly.
is his thought different from this common philosophical idea? So let's make some more observations here. I love observations. When he is in a city, he is visiting a city. Now, he's not talking about the people here. He just says city. What
Sí.
sense does he use to observe that city?
Can you repeat?
Yeah, what sense of his five senses, which sense is he using to observe this city?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Hmm.
What sense he used to?
For example, touch, smell, listening,
Yeah, all of
sight.
them.
When we think about visiting, naturally, when you're there in the place, you're thinking of a city, you use all of your senses. But
Sí,
I'd say a primary one is visual here. When he's
sí,
standing back and observing a city, it's a very visual sense.
sí.
He can hold on to a railing and he can feel part of that city. But the only sense he can really behold the entire thing in is sight here. So he can look at the whole city at once in his vision, but he can't touch the whole city at once. He can't hear the whole city at once. He probably doesn't want to taste the city. Um, what about women? All the women that he's loved. Now, this involves multiple senses as well, but think about it in a literary way. In
Definitely the touch, probably. The smell.
smell.
Of course.
How?
For me, that makes sense because even for me, cities, I think there is a smell in cities.
Mhm.
I think very strong. I think there is a flavor because culture brings food and you have also flavor. Of
Mhm.
course, sight will be dominant. Maybe touch will be the last, but I mean, but still, I don't know. It's interesting that yeah, I very focusing all the sense.
Good. How about the people that you meet? When
Yeah,
you
I
meet,
don't taste them. Yeah,
you
that is
don't
for
taste them.
sure.
No, you don't taste them.
I
But
don't taste them. I will depend of the culture. I will touch them. My culture, we are people that we touch people. I will see them. I will smell them for sure.
Hopefully not, but
I hear can be good in a good way
some
too.
people
You
in a
can
good way.
smell good.
Mhm,
And you, of course, I will hear them.
mhm, mhm. And how about the writers? Now, he has definitely a love affair with books. The
Yeah,
Library of Babylon. Uh, I think in one place he said that a writer lives forever because they're incarnate in their books.
yeah,
So to be an author is to live forever in your book. So for him, writing and reading and books, this is also something that uses all of his senses, right? He's going to
yeah.
touch the book. He's going to uh, think about the book. He's going to see the book. He's going to smell the book. All of that is very important to him. Uh, so we see that his senses, all five senses, are very engaged with these four things that he thinks he is. Uh, so we haven't ruled anything out yet, but I want to say the emphasis here. Uh, have we done end emphasis yet? No, when we do no new contract, we'll talk about where the emphasis in a sentence is. But in English, we put the emphasis at the end of the sentence. So his emphasis here isn't that he's not sure. His emphasis is probably on his subject, I. I'm not sure that I exist, actually. Uh, so if we're reading it in that sense, if we put that emphasis on the I, what is he saying does exist? Because he gives us four different things down here that are very real to him. So uh, perhaps it's like the id and ego from the Greek. He is not sure that he as an individual exists, but he as a part of the collective would exist. He's someone who receives information and transmits information. He's a transitive vessel. He's not unique. It could be said, no man is an island. Uh, so perhaps without these four influences, the writers he reads, the people he meets, the women he loves, and the cities he visits, without these four influences, perhaps he would cease to exist. All right. Do you think we have some good observations on his quote here?
Yeah, I I um, I just listened to you because I was thinking different way, but it's
Mhm.
interesting your way too.
I like your way, and I want you to convince me of your thinking.
No, it's good. It's good. That is what I was listening. Um, yeah, yeah. I was just thinking in that in like for him exist is I think he was trying to express more the singularity, but I
Mhm.
was thinking that even if he is all these people, he still will be singularly from my point of view because
Mhm.
the way that he meet and how he relate will make that unique. So even if the idea is like, oh, I all of these things, but the way that he interact and interpret these things will be still singular.
Mm,
So
that's a good
I not
point.
I still not got what was his idea. The I'm not sure that I exist, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Uh, what your homework is going to be this week, I'll give it to you ahead of time. Uh, try to find this quote in the Spanish. I'll see if I can find out which story it's from. Uh,
Uh-huh.
because when you read it in the Spanish, you'll be able to hear it like Nelson Mandela says, not in your head, but in your heart.
Yeah.
You'll be able to better understand what he means. And that's why I chose an author here that has writing in Spanish so that you'll be able to understand that. Uh,
I'm
and
going
then,
to be honest, even if it's in Spanish, that I'm almost sure that the verb will be the same.
Mhm,
I tend to rationalize uh, thinking, so I'm not connect too well with emotions. So
okay.
I think I will struggle with the same. Why he put the verb existir? Probably.
But no, I think that's a really good place to start, because you could even frame your entire essay around why has he chosen the word existing? Why has he chosen exist? And you might come up with some evidences for why you think he comes up with that. Uh, and that's what you would write your whole essay on. Because remember, your essay, you're going to want to write this in 25 to 30 minutes. So your observations, they're going to have to be quick. I always like to start with just the basics of grammar. What's the grammar in this quote look like? And grabbing onto the word exist, this is a good place to start. Why the word exist and not feel or think? Why has he chosen this word exist? So making these preliminary observations is a fundamental place to start, because if we skip this step and start trying to tell what we think about this, well, we haven't challenged our own thinking yet. And we're asking the person reading it to challenge their thinking. So we need to go through the same process that we're asking them to go through. But we need to start at the foundation of evidence. So I'm going to leave this here and we're going to move to the next one. But this slide is going to be your homework, not to write an essay, but just to come up with, what do you think he means? What are your reasons? And what are your evidences? You don't even need to worry about warrant yet, but your claim, what do you think he means? Your reasons and your evidence. Okay, and then we're going to do one more practice making observations, and then I think our time will be up then. So have you ever heard of this author, Haruki Murakami?
No.
He's a Japanese author, a little younger than George Borges. In fact, Murakami is influenced a lot by Jorge Borges. So a lot of his writing, he'll even reference it. He has a book, Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. And it's basically about unicorns. And he uses Jorge Borges' book, Seres Imaginarios. If you've ever, or El Libro de Seres Imaginarios. And he uses this as evidence in his book. So let's look at him with just the understanding that his thought process is influenced by Jorge Borges. So could you read this quote for me?
What I think is this: you should give up looking for lost cats and start searching for the other half of your shadow.
All right. So do you remember that sentence I gave you? Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. It doesn't make much sense, right? How about this quote? Do you think just a preliminary reading of this quote, can you understand what he's trying to say here? Or we're going to need to do some observations on it so that we can understand what he's thinking, right? Because what is reading and writing? It's not how we interpret it, but it's how he meant it. So the thoughts that went onto paper is his best intention of bringing his thoughts into a permanent sphere. Our job is to understand not how we think about it, but what he thinks about it.
Yeah.
Then we can develop how we think about it.
So I don't know the author, and for me it's harder. I can try to give an interpretation, but will not be probably where he thinks, because I don't know him. I don't know his history, context, the moment in their life that he wrote it.
Okay.
So I'm completely clueless about what he wanted to transmit. I can figure out what that means for me. I can imagine what represent lost cats and what represent your shadow, your other half.
So that's one reason why, well, we started with Jorge Borges because you know him. But the quote that they give you in the CBEST test, you might not know the author or the quote. So we're going to practice making some observations so that we can make an informed opinion. We're going to try to come as close as we can, recognizing that we don't know him. So we have to assume that his writing does a good job of conveying his thoughts, because that's what he's trying to give us, is his thoughts. So the writing should be sufficient. Uh, we know a little about his background. You can look at him and see, oh, he's Japanese. He's got some Japanese behind him. His name, Haruki Murakami, is a Japanese name. And then we can look at his writing style as well and see that he's giving us some possibly figurative language. It's definitely surreal. Actually, I would even say that his genre is magical realism. So he is greatly influenced by Spanish literature. And this is probably key to understanding his thoughts, but it should also be familiar to you as well, this way of speaking. So let's start with our grammatical observations. How many sentences has he given us here?
Two.
Two, yeah. Two. It's kind of a weird sentence, the beginning sentence that he's given us. It's as if it's a partial sentence, right? But he starts the next one with a capital letter. So he's thinking of these in two sentences. But what he's saying is essentially, the thought is one, but the grammar is two sentences.
Okay.
So he almost sounds a little confused just by the way he's written the sentence, but what kind of a sentence is it? Is it declarative? Is it a question?
It's an affirmation.
It's
an advice. So he's using you should. So it's a I don't know how do you say in English, but it's giving advice.
Yep. You should give up looking for lost cats and start searching for other halves of your shadow. So he's making a comparison here. He's saying one thing is better than the other. So what this kind of hinges on then is, what do we give up and what do we start doing? So let's start at the end and see what can we understand just using the language. He says the other half of your shadow. What is a shadow?
It's a reflection of your your own light. I don't know how do you say that.
So when you've got the sun up here and you've got your body here,
you
and
have
it's
a
the dark spot, right? It's where your body blocks the light. So what would be the other half? What is another half if you've got two halves of a whole?
Yeah, I think that look for the other half of your shadow could be a metaphor for your made soul, like the one who made you complete, because the other half implies that you are half. So right. I definitely interpret that you should look for the person that completes you.
Yep. It could be the person that completes you, perhaps. In his thinking, he's got two people standing next to each other and your shadow's only half of the other shadow. So it could be looking for a romantic partner, your soulmate.
Yeah.
A shadow is the absence of light, where the sun blocks light from getting to it. So perhaps in his mind, he's thinking there's a dark shadow and a light shadow. You have to find that light shadow. We don't quite understand, but he is saying that you should give something up and start to do this. So he's making these ideas rather equivalent. He's saying one is better than the other, but they're exchangeable. I can transfer one to another. So let's try to think up. We should stop, or we should give up looking for lost cats. How about lost cats?
For me, loves cats. He maybe also is a metaphor for things that we put in our life to have comfort. Sometimes people have cats or animals in order to have something to love and receive love that they don't going to be hurt by.
Good.
So it's safer have a cat that have a husband or wife.
Right. I think you've got a great idea there, and you could probably write a whole essay on that. Your claim could be that he's saying give up temporary comforts and seek the other half of your soul,
Yeah.
your soulmate, and
Kind
you've
of.
got some good evidence there. In one paragraph, explain what you think he means by shadow. In another paragraph, explain what you think he means by cats. And in the third paragraph, put that all together. Why should someone believe your claim? All right, so we're just about at the end of our session. So let's look at this outlining an essay, because this is going to be your homework. You're just going to write an outline about that Jorge Borges. Actually, I'll let you choose. You can choose Haruki Murakami or the Jorge Borges to write an outline for an essay about. So using your observations, formulate a claim. So look at the evidences that you've come up with, and using those evidences, try to think, what is he talking about? If you don't know, then state your claim as a possibility. Then identify which of your observations are reasons and which of them are evidences. Organize them into 2 or 3 main reasons with evidence as support. Use your opening paragraph to explain your claim. So you're going to give your claim and your main reason, or your main reasons. Using body paragraphs to explain your reasons supported by evidence. Your conclusion to explain your warrant. Why is it relevant? So what this looks like is essentially this. In paragraph 1, it's all about your claim, and your reasons back up your claim. You can also hint at your warrant, but you don't have to explain it yet. You can explain it in the conclusion. Then look under claim number 1, so 1A is reason 1 and reason 2. You don't have to give your evidences here in the introduction. In fact, you probably should wait, because in paragraph 2, you're going to give an entire paragraph just about that reason, paragraph 3 just about reason 2, and then give your supporting evidences. And then finally, you write your warrant. After you've convinced them to believe you, now you want to tell them why they should think this, why it matters to them, what conclusion or application they can take away. Does this all make sense? Everything's clear?
Yeah, everything is clear.
Okay, so you can use this basic outline. If you just come up with some answers to each of these, what's your claim, your first and second reason, and that would be your whole homework for today. And if you do it by next Thursday, we'll discuss it at the beginning of our class on Thursday.
Okay.
All right. Do you have an idea which you'd prefer to do, Borges or Murakami?
I probably will choose Borges just because I know better about the author. I just wanted to ask you if I'm allowed, like, look like a little research on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I need to figure out by myself, or if I can, just read a little. The only thing that I want to think about that is about this part of the existence, because it's the thing that I don't get it so much.
That's
and
okay.
The other is I make it up that the lost cat can be comforting, and the other is your soul matter. But honestly, it's like not sure. I mean, yeah. I may be just saying something that is not. I will just, by curious, I probably Google things about this author that I didn't know.
That's okay.
But
Yeah, especially for this essay, it's our first expository essay. You can do all the research that you want. Don't stress out too much about it. It's mostly form practice. But yes, you can research what you'd like about this author. You can even find out what book it's from if you'd like, and include any of that as evidence. At this point, we're still in the practice. So whatever you can do to help your practice be a little easier, you can do that, because when we get to the last one, you're going to have to write it without doing any research. Because when you take the test, you're going to have to write without research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. Actually, I can do without, and then I can Google too.
Yeah, and I would recommend writing down your evidences before you do any research.
Yeah,
You can always
exactly.
change that evidence later, but try to come up with your evidence and even some reasons before you do any research. And then feel free to do research and check your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
All right, very good. Well, I will see you Tuesday, right? We're back on for Tuesday.
See, could you? It's super good for me when you send me a text or reminder because even that I have actually made me track the day. So I
Mhm.
don't know if it's something that you always do or you were just kind to me today because I was coming back.
I can do that every week if you like.
Oh, I love it. I
Good.
love it. I'm not so good in things, and I put alarms, but sometimes I working and I put the alarm down. So yeah, it's very helpful. Thank you. You are doing a great job. I love the hour passed so fast, and I enjoy the class. And
Good.
yeah,
Well, I'm happy that you're satisfied because I want to make sure that you pass this test and feel comfortable going into it. Um, I think you don't need to be nervous about it. So if I can help you be less nervous, that would be
I get talkative, but I'm not good organizing thoughts.
that's okay.
So we
That's
will
okay.
see. You will see how I write.
Well, hopefully this will be easy. Claim, reason,
Amen.
evidence.
Yes,
Mhm.
I
All right.
received that.
Good.